Schedule builders, this video is going to focus on working with rooms in PowerScheduler. This might be a little bit longer because I'm going to cover numerous topics on rooms, but we're going to start off, first of all, if you log into PowerScheduler, make sure you're at your correct school, and then on the left-hand side, if you go to resources, you can see the rooms that are available in PowerScheduler that you can use for scheduling. Depending on anything you're used to, for LPS staff, you're used to PowerScheduler by now. You have to have a room for classes to land in or it will stop your build, right? Say there's no room that this can take, or there's not enough rooms for your planned sections. So you have to have enough rooms in periods available for your schedule to build. So now what you do with rooms is you figure out what are our actual rooms, right? So down here you have all the rooms that are listed at Liberty North High School, right? They can be numbers, they can be letters, they can be names. You know, this is literally what's going to print on a student's schedule and tell them what the room number is. So you want it to be as descriptive as you can get it so they know where their class is. This is a description for you as a schedule builder. Over time, you may or may not remember what all these rooms are, or if you want to make, we'll talk about fake rooms in a minute, you know, what description are you using for this room so you know what it is just at a glance. Is this room associated to a department? You want rooms associated to departments for different reasons. You can, if we look over here, mark a course as being for department use, a room for being department use only. So if we look at the science rooms, they're marked to department use only. The idea behind that is, with the expense of physics lab equipment and the dangers that might be associated with some of the items that are in that lab, that we don't want anything to walk off, or we don't want anybody to get hurt because there's a staff member in there who doesn't know what something is. We want to make sure that only certified science teachers are in those classes. That's a reason you might do a department use only. That's one reason. You can also do facilities use only. There's a video that was on facilities creation. So if we look at the FACS kitchen, it wouldn't really be beneficial to run your AP English Language Arts class in a kitchen. So what you're going to do is you're going to set this room up. The kitchen at Liberty North is facilities use only. So every class that requires a kitchen is just going to be marked as needing a FACS kitchen, and only those classes can land in that classroom. Always free is tricky. North is doing a little something tricky here where they marked always free yes. I'm going to give you my guess on why that is. They have 2 teachers who teach culinary arts, and they're going to share that kitchen at times. So what they're doing is they're banking on the fact that they can find another location for the second teacher on any given hour to put their class, so that that class can land in that kitchen. You want to be really careful with using the always free option. Are you scheduling this room, right? So if I click on schedule, they've got the black box theater they don't use for scheduling. They've got room 800, whatever that is, which is a no. And they have an off-campus room, which is a no. My book, it's fine to have these because once you're done with a schedule build, right? I've finished building a schedule, but you're still in PowerScheduler making small, minor adjustments or moving things around. You can then go in and use these non-scheduled rooms and move things into them. You can also get rid of them so they're not there, so they don't cause potentially a problem. If this isn't a real course, you know, this is not a real room off campus, you're going to use this for maybe Liberty Virtual when you make those later, or if you're going to make, you know, something that's not on your campus, right? Well, if this is marked yes, and none of these are marked, you could have an English class land in a room that's called off campus. So you want to be careful with rooms you're not using to schedule. So that is a quick primer on this room list. You can see the room number, description, department, and the options you can have to mark a room. This matrix view, if I click on view, I'm going to do this in a new window. What it shows you is after a schedule build has been completed, or at least attempted, and you've imported your results, this view tells you what landed in that room. If you're having errors or your build isn't finishing, this can come in handy because you can go and find out, like if it tells you, hey, the build failed on Culinary Arts Pro Start 1, you can come and look and say, oh, that's because the room filled up. You know, it gives you an option to look and troubleshoot why something isn't working in your build. Okay, so that is a quick primer on that room list. I'm going to close that window. If you need to make a new room, or if you want to look for something, here's another feature. Like if I want to know what says kitchen up in the top, I can type in kitchen and hit apply, and it'll filter down it helps you in your lists, or I can clear that and see all my classes. But if you're Liberty North and you're building a new wing, or you're Liberty High and you're building the new fine arts facility, right? You will have to make decisions on when that's supposed to be completed and whether you're going to plan on using those rooms or how you're going to plan on using those rooms. Okay, so it's tricky. If you don't get the room until January, you shouldn't schedule a class into it in August, right? So you might have to be real creative, and then you're going to get some breathing room once the middle of the year hits, if that's the building plan. But to make a new room from this room, when you click on Resources Rooms again, it'll bring in, and all you do is click on New Room. New room you're gonna want to put a room number in. Again, the room number, if it's room 820, make it room 820. The room description, again, can come in handy, because what is room 820? Well, room 820 is the new science room, or whatever it may be, right? You could decide, you can't decide. I was going to say you could use those rooms second semester, but you can't really make a room only available second semester unless it's post-build. So what's the room number? What's the room description? What department is it in? Doesn't have to be associated to a department, but if you associate it to a department, it gives you the options to make it department use only. And even if you don't want to do that, it'll still try and put business classes in business department classrooms. That's more important for like high schools that have more teachers than rooms. If you're a middle school that doesn't have that, you might not, that every teacher has their own room, you might not have to worry about that yet. We don't do buildings, we don't do houses, right? We don't have 3 buildings kids walk between to get to their classroom, so we don't worry about that. Are you using this for scheduling? So remember, we saw those 3 rooms at North that were marked no for scheduling. If you don't check this box, it's not going to see that room as an option to put a class in. The room is always free. That is one where you don't really want to use it for a real room. We'll love to ask North how that worked with their kitchen, but essentially you use room is always free for the Career Center, right? That's not a real room for us. We ship kids off to the Career Center and they go to whatever room they have over there. So we might have, a morning and an afternoon area Career Center, Northland Career Center, NCAPS, right? We have all these programs where they leave campus. You can make one room that's an off-campus facility or off-campus department, right? Mark it department only or facilities use only. Make that room always free so all of those off-campus classes can land in it, because it's not a real spot. That's one of the things today is fake rooms. It's not a fake room because no one's going somewhere. It's a fake room because it's not our room, right? Kids are leaving our campus and going somewhere else to take that class. We can use a fake room to do that. A+ is another example. If we're sending kids, you might want to just assign all A+ kids to the library, right? So they have a starting point before they go off to do tutoring. Or EIP, right? EIP, they might want a designated meeting place, so you might use the library as a room, but you also might just put off campus because those kids are leaving campus to go to specific places. So that's kind of fake rooms, and you might want to be able to use those for room always free. Department use only is good for maybe the gymnasiums, good for science rooms, things like that, stuff that because of safety reasons or just because of what the room is, you don't want non-department staff in there. Facilities use only, I mentioned, the kitchen should only be used for cooking classes. That makes sense. Now, and then you can associate room facilities, right? So if I come in and say the room I'm going to make let's call it a humanities room, right? So let's say Liberty North is running their humanities, which is English and social studies together, and they're going to have one combo section of that. Well, you can't lock down a room for just 2 periods, but you can say, hey, I want this room to be this facility so any humanities class can flow into it. But if you don't check the facilities use only box, other classes can land in it as well. So that's a little deal with facilities. You can have a room that you can have a course that requires a humanities facility, but then other courses can also go in that room. Okay, I'm going to clear this because we don't really need this to be this. I'm actually not going to save the class or the course. The room, I apologize. Room max. Room max is a bit interesting. It always freaks people out if you show them the report of what room maxes are. The room max has to be higher than the course max, course enrollment max for any class that's going to go in it. So if you have a course that has a maximum class size of 36, right? My best example is you've got, let's say you've got 33 students who signed up for accounting, and your principal's looking at your business staff saying, can't really afford to split that out into two. We're going to have one big section of 33. Bump the course max up to 33 schedule builder. If your accounting classrooms are all set at a max of 30, the engine won't build that class anywhere. So really, you want your room maxes to be large, right? 50, 200. If you're going to do band, make it 300 because there's 150 kids in bandish, right? So make sure it's just way over whatever the max possible number of kids is going to be, because your course max is going to dictate. Where this can come in handy, let's say you have a room that you're going to use, I don't even know. Really, make the room max big. You're going to handle the, if you have a smaller room for a same class, like we're using this closet while we're waiting to build out the wing, right, but only 12 kids can fit in here, you would go and touch those sections later and make those sections have a max room number instead of dealing with it in the build. So that is how to set up rooms. If I hit submit, I would be creating that room. If you wanted to delete a room, you would just come in, let me find that. I'm not going to delete anything, don't worry. If I find the room I want to delete and click on this off-campus room, I can choose the delete option that's right here, and it would be deleted. When you delete rooms, one of the things you want to watch, if you have a room, let's say you go and say, well, we're going to change up how we schedule the kitchen. So you delete the kitchen and forget to go back and add a kitchen with a facility, but your courses are requiring that kitchen facility, you're going to get an error that, hey, there's no room that meets the requirements for the class. So that's something to watch. But you would just go to the room and click delete. My recommendation is always to keep your scheduling resources as clean as possible. So if you know we really don't use that off-campus room for anything, get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Adios it. Get rid of it as quick as you can, because you don't want it in there cluttering up. And one of the things you need to think about is a lot of this stuff transfers from year to year. So think about, if I'm replaced as a schedule builder, will the next person understand what this fake room is? So that's a long video on room setup and defining rooms and creating rooms and the like. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions if you have them. Thanks.